Good afternoon once again. We have had another opportunity to meet, have a discussion, go through what we have started and continue from where we ended the other day. This afternoon we are going to go with still on methods of teaching. We have known for ourselves that we have mass instruction as a method, otherwise known as lecture method. When we put the lecture on the left, then we have what is learner-centered method of teaching, broadly labeled as discovery or project method of teaching. Now, these ones are individualized, so we have been talking about individual methodology of teaching or methodologies of teaching. And this afternoon we are going to look at self-instruction via mediated material or mediated material. Self-instruction. Self as an adjective qualifying the instruction will let us know that this is a method where the learner can learn by himself or herself. Mediated, something is mediating between the learner and the learning process. Now, because of the self or mediated material, the learner is going to use such materials to learn with a little or even no assistance from the teacher. And we know that there are packages, instructional material packages via mediated devices, and some of them are audio tapes, video tapes, slide tapes, photographs, practical kits, and conventional printed materials. Now we know an audio tape, specially prepared, the learner downloads or takes this material and listens to what this audio is intended to do. Similarly, the video tapes, which has the ear and the sight together. The student looks at the pictures accompanied by voice, and on like the slides and the conventional materials, printed material that a student can lay his or her hands on and then self-instruct. That is why it is labeled self-instruction. You will agree with me that there are advantages when a student decides to use such medium to learn. The first is the learner works at his or her own pace. If you take an audio or video material and you are listening and looking at it, it is at your own pace. There's no coercion from anywhere. Now, the usage of, for example, the videotape increases stimulation. It brings a real situation, a classroom situation before the student, simulated, because it enables sound on one side, motion is another, and then there's realism, because in the actual classroom situation, the teacher is not static. And so sound, sight, motion combined together makes it a real situation for the student to look at and study. And then it saves the teacher from time-consuming repetition. Like If it were in the classroom face to face, the teacher might be repeating something, but in this case, repetition is gone. Now, let us look at computer-based learning and multimedia. Now, we believe that the computer today and its related development in the field of educational technology is the most important invention since the discovery of the printing press in the 15th century, somewhere 1650 or thereabouts. When it comes to self-instruction, the computer is the most reliable equipment, and we all would agree. It can address a wide range of learning objectives. Learners can work at their own pace with the computer. The computer is highly interactive. It gives room for learners learning by doing, because it's an interface. So you agree with me that there's an immediate provision of feedback when an individual decides to use the computer to study or to learn. And it can provide simulations also. Actual classroom situations, the computer can be used to do that. And something that could have not been accessible, the computer presently makes it accessible for learning experiences. So the computer now has become the stage where so many literates, teacher, learners, as individuals use to enhance their teaching and their learning. One disadvantage, however, or one or two, it is only the literate, who is the individual who is computer literate, who can use it. You agree with me that it is not always possible to find relevant, ready-made, computer-based materials. Somebody has to sit down and then write a program, and it is not easy to lay one's hands on these ones. Designing an effective computer-based learning material requires a highly, I repeat, a highly developed skill. If you take children's learning material, like say Captain Planet, the designer, can you imagine the time frame that individual had to sit down and imagine the series that will go into this teaching material that we call Captain Planet? So that is one disadvantage. Individual assignments and projects also. If an individual is given an assignment on a computer to work on a project, it is not easy. A lasting student learning, we agree, comes from active involvement in the learning process. And such activities can include project works, dissertation, which serves as assessment instruments rather than method. So, when we looked at, don't get confused here, we looked at the computer-based learning and multimedia, and I have explained it up to the point of where we are saying another type of individual method of teaching is individual assignment or project. So don't confuse that with what is gone before. Individual assignment or project work is another type of method of teaching. And we are saying that under that, learning comes from active involvement in the learning process. If the student is not involved in what is being taught, we agree that change of behavior does not last. And so a teacher can use individual assignments, giving projects or assigning projects to students as a way of getting students involved in the learning process, so what they learn sticks. And such activities include project work. It will not be long when you are getting to the end of your level 300, you will be asked to choose topics for project work. You choose your project work, either you are going to be in groups of 3 or 4 or 5, as the case may be, and then you are given a supervisor. You choose a topic, you find the background of that topic, you project a problem that you have decided to go to find answers to or solution to, and so you bring about your research questions, hypothesis. This is a project and it is individualized. You are doing that on your own. You are involved in whatever you are doing as a project, and so we call that as an individual assignment methodology. Writing a dissertation is the same. It serves as an assessment instrument. And so don't forget, when you come to the point that you are giving a project work, remember your teacher has given you something to think about, and it is a way of method of teaching. And we as people, learners, students, preparing ourselves to operate either at the JSS level, basic, or the secondary level, you can give our students or learners meaningful projects for the students or the pupils to find out information, write them down, and come and show or present in class. Now, we have the teacher-learner interface. The word interface should not confuse us. If you take a dialogue is between two people. So the teacher and the learner. What goes on between the two? We are aware as teachers that individualized teaching methods are designed to ensure the following. Anytime you are picking an individualized methodology, you as a teacher, you want to make sure that the learners who are before you do what is of interest to them. Each child, don't forget, studies what is of interest to him or her. That is why when we give project works, it is not the teacher who assigns a topic to the student. It is the student himself or herself who chooses a topic. That topic is of interest to him or her. Then we note that methods of teaching are appropriately selected. So in a teacher-learner interface, the teacher must not forget these two. And the third one, each learner progressing at his or her own pace. If you choose a topic, you are working at it at your own pace. So on the teacher-learner interface, two main divisions can be identified, where we have ability grouping and supervised individual activity. Let me say that again. Ability grouping and supervised individual activity. These two come under that broad topic, teacher-learner interface. What is ability grouping? You agree with me that naturally, as teachers, we find in our classroom situations mixed ability children, mixed groups in our classes. So in order that each learner will study meaningfully, it is better, we agree, that we as teachers group our learners under ability systems. You remember when we were talking about the theories of learning, Jean Piaget made us aware the levels of development, growth, and cognitive development. We are aware of that. So teacher-learner interface continues that learning could be grouped using the following criteria, and that is children with similar level of intelligence, level of interest and motivation, home and environmental conditions, level of prior subject matter knowledge, and age, for example. If you have such characteristics of children, you can put them in one group and call it a stream. So let us look at that. Stream A. You are in a school, and the school has organized itself into streams, A, B, C, D, or what. You can therefore pick those learners with high level of intelligence. Students who are, you see them, they are highly self-motivated. They have a prior knowledge about some topics and whatever. You can put such students in one stream and call that group stream A or class A. Then those learners with medium ability in intelligence, they are also motivated and they have a common interest, prior knowledge. You put them into a streams too. So you could do that, and then you'll find A, B, C, and say D, depending upon the number of students you have in your class. In group D, for example, you can have learners with low to very low abilities. When this is done, the teacher must not forget that he has to draw nearer to assist the group or the groups to resolve their problems when these problems arise within the groups. So the teacher is interfacing. The learners have been streamed, but the teacher don't take a French leave. He sits, moves, and supports, supervises these groups when they have been given their group assignments. The supervised individual study is another method of teaching, and we have been doing them, except that we are giving it a name probably today for us to realize that it is something that we have been doing always. When we divide this into two, we have homework and tutoring. Homework, and we know that we have been giving our children homework. We call that a supervised individual study. The teacher gives assignments to be taken home, and the idea is that the children or the child is going to be assisted by parents or siblings. The child goes with that assignment, works that assignment at home, and brings it back to school for the teacher to look at. We have tutoring. We know that tutoring carried between two people. In Valley View University, for example, we have individual study. If a final year, in the session or in the final semester for graduation, and he realizes that there's probably a course that has not been taken and it is pending, the school agrees that individual study be organized for this student, and it is between that student and the lecturer. So tutoring, we say it is between two people like this, the learner and the teacher. So we find that in the process of the teacher patiently finding out the problems of the learner and helping him we will agree that this is likened to a clinic. So this aspect of doing things is very clinical. And what do physicians do in a clinic or hospital? The patient is there, and the doctor or the physician specialist takes time using questions, probing questions to find out what is the problem. So he diagnoses, and after diagnosing, then prescribes. So the teacher also here serves as a physician specialist and patiently, in a clinical sense, finds the problem, identifies the problem with the learner, so he or she can help the learner out. So in doing this, as teachers, we must be guided by Hubbard, who has said that when a learner, we quote him, when a learner misses understanding of one word, this learner cannot progress meaningfully. One word. You will agree, during some years back that we were doing recitation in classes, or those of you in Sunday schools, you remember, you say, okay, 1 week or 3 weeks ago, you were giving Bible verses and whatever piece of work you are going to recite in public. Remember that anytime a child missed a word or a phrase, everything became jumbled in the mind and the child would be fidgeting. It is the same way, according to Hubbard, that when a learner misses understanding of one word, that student cannot progress meaningfully. So according to him, Hubbard, teachers must encourage themselves to go through the following 6 levels of understanding with the learner. It is similar to Bloom's taxonomy, in steps arranged in ranks like a ladder. And let us look at what he has said. The steps. It starts with explanation, because it says that if a learner fails to understand one word, and so teachers must try as much as possible to explain concepts and ideas to the understanding of the learner. He must help the students to do interpretation of what you have explained. Then move on to apply, move on to perspective, move on to empathy, and move on to self-knowledge. Let's see how these steps are very applicable, very interesting. Any learner, you and I, if we are learners, we agree that when we understand an idea or a concept, we are able to explain it. And this is very true. When we understand and we are able to interpret, it goes on with that. Because we understand. And because we understand, we have been able to explain it. And because you have been able to explain it, we can interpret it. So, when we are interpreting something, we are making sense out of something. That is interpretation. We make sense. Okay, this is sensible. That is an aspect of interpretation. So, we must do all that we can so that the learner is able to explain a concept using his or her own words. Remember, in your secondary school days, comprehension passages, and you will find underlined words or phrases, clauses, and on the underlined words, vocabulary. The question will be, explain the underlined words as they have been used in the passage, not as they are in the dictionary. So, the one who understands an idea will be able to apply that concept to solve a problem. It means that knowledge that can be used is acquired. The knowledge that we use is acquisition of knowledge. When we acquire, somebody will tell you that wisdom is applied knowledge. It is the knowledge that you have that you are applying. And when somebody is able to do that, this person is wise, wisdom is applying knowledge. So anyone student who understands a concept will be able to put that concept in perspective. What does that mean? Putting something in perspective is that the individual can judge an issue regarding that concept he or she has understood. You can judge it. That is why in our traditional setup, when our elders are resolving a case between two people or whatever, groups of people, at a certain point, they will pause and say that we are going to ask Abrewa, old lady. But in reality, there's no old lady they are going to ask anything from. You find that the aged among the groups, because they have understood certain concepts, certain ideas, when they put themselves together, they are able to put the case before them in perspective. They can judge the issue regarding what has happened objectively. That is what it means. So understanding something, explaining and applying is very, very important in this teaching process. Because if a learner really understands a situation, he has been able to put it in perspective. You will notice that most of the time, this person will empathize with those who have encountered a similar problem. And it is very true. You talk with a friend, the friend doesn't seem to follow. The friend doesn't seem to follow, and you say, you are not in my shoes. If you were in my shoes, you would understand. We often say this, and that is true in teaching too. That when the child has been able to understand something by explaining it, by interpreting it, by making an application and putting that into perspective, that individual is able to empathize because he can put himself or herself in the situation of another person who also gets into the same situation some time ago. And then when that is done, we arrive at the last point, which is the sixth, and that is self-knowledge. 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 And it is very important because he has been able to empathize. It has become part of him or her, and he realizes, oh, you can say we are all human. Why are we all human? Because it dawns on him, dawns on you that, oh, as for this, it can happen to any person. That is how we come about self-knowledge. So in the classroom situation, everybody is asking us as teachers to help go through these 6 steps with our students so that at the end of the day, they themselves have climbed this staircase step by step to the 6th level. And what they learn through this, using this method, is something that they will never forget. It will stick. It will stick. And when it sticks, then we have been able to come by with a behavior that will not go away. We have agreed as we went through these steps that the one who understands an idea or a concept will be able to apply it. And so one cannot empathize if one cannot explain. One cannot empathize if that individual cannot interpret, if that individual cannot do an application, if the same individual cannot put anything in perspective. You will agree that that cannot be done. So anytime an individual who is able to understanding has to do with recall and definition. You are defining a concept by explaining it. And so consequently you realize that such individual can do the interpretation. He can do the application. He can put the idea that has been understood in perspective. That is, he can judge aright the issue. And therefore the same person can enter into the feelings of that concept. That individual is empathized. And then that individual can manipulate the concept in many ways to solve a problem, solving situations. And that is what I just said the other time, that he has come to self-knowledge. So in conclusion, we can say that individualized teaching method, teachers have two main tasks. Anytime we decide as teachers to use individualized teaching methodology, two tasks. One is to encourage the strong students to go ahead because it's individualized based, individual based. Secondly, to support the weak so they also can catch on. And I can remember in this case my professor at the university some years back. I had gone to read music, Bachelor of Music at the university. Unfortunately for me, all my classmates, my course mates, had done a 3-year diploma in music at the School of Music in Winnipeg, except me. I had gone there with the training college Tinko Tinkong that our teachers were teaching us. And so any concept that was brought into the classroom situation, I was at sea. I didn't know what was going on. What does that mean? My course mates who have done the 3-year diploma with before they came to the university were the strong ones. And my professor had to encourage them to go ahead. But I also needed support because I was weak. So I remember he appointed one lecturer and said, look, this one student has a problem. Please organize afternoon classes for him. So I remember too well, every afternoon from 2 to 4, he would sit with me at a piano because piano work, I was deficient in playing the piano. So he would take me through piano lessons. And this man, the professor himself as head of department, would take me through guitar. So I understand too well these two concepts, that strong ones must be helped to go ahead, encouraged. The same way the weak ones must be helped to catch up with the strong. And so I remember at the end of a semester, a common exam was taken by all of us to determine whether I was at par with the strong ones. And when I got my report, I gave a smile of relief that, oh, I am at par with these strong ones. So, accordingly, the teacher must ask himself or herself the following questions. Has the learner understood the concept being taught? The teacher must be asking himself or herself along the line this pertinent question. It's very important. So under teacher-learner interface, we can have the following as methods of teaching. We have group teaching and learning materials, and there are 6 group learning methods. So don't get confused with this. We have taken our students and we are saying that when we want our students to learn, we should make sure every word, every concept is understood. And we have taken ourselves through the Hubbard 6 steps of getting our students to understand what we teach. And that is why we are advised to ask ourselves, has our students or have they understood the topic, the concept, the idea that we are teaching? So as we continue with the teacher-learner interface, we come to 6 types of methods under that we can use to teach when we are operating on the teacher-learner interface. And the first one is, the buzz session. Buzz is taken from the noise that bees make, buzzing. We will get to know why. Then we have student deliberations. We have participative exercises of a game, for example, stimulation, case study time. We have mediated feedback or discussion sessions and self-help group. These are all interesting methods that a teacher can use in the classroom situation. In the buzz session, you realize that you have been doing it. During the sessions like educational psychology, your lecturer put you into groups. You take, say, B.Ed Social Studies, B.Ed English, and B.Ed Religion. Probably you were put together as a class. Then your teacher picked a topic and then put you into groups of 6, 10. The 10 members will meet discussing one topic, or the same topic could be given to all the groups. And if you are in the classroom like Ellen J. White Hall, you will hear a buzzing sound because everybody is talking in the room. That is why we give that label, buzzing. The noise that is coming from the discussion is what has been used to label this type of teaching as a buzzing session, buzz. So learners are put into groups this way. So this covers, so when we have another student deliberation, it covers a wide range of activities that are designed to promote discussions between a teacher and a group of learners. Now, such deliberation, student deliberation, can comprise a whole class discussion or a seminar that the teacher has organized, and then tutorials. What is a class discussion? The teacher here is in control and allows questions as the case may be concerning a topic, a whole class. A seminar is not like that. In this case, it has some various forms, but one feature of a seminar is that if it is a whole class, the class is divided and we have something, a horseshoe, but this one will not be a horseshoe. 2 circles, an inner and an outer circle, will be made and participants will be seated. Then a material is introduced and the content of that material is discussed by these individuals, and then, as I have said already, seminars so when we meet again, I will go through the steps of organizing a seminar. We have been doing it in our classroom, but we need to take the steps and make them clear for you, so when you decide to use a seminar to teach your class, you will know exactly what you have to do. And so with this at the back of our minds, we will break here and then continue from organizing a seminar or using a seminar as method of teaching.